Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 greatest Elgar conductors. Yeah, I have some mixed feelings about this one, frankly, because of all the major composers, and Elgar is a major composer, I think he's so over-promoted. I don't think he's overrated because I think he's a genius. I really do. But well, let's put it this way. We did the Desert Island Composers list, right? And a lot of people put Elgar on their list. But the point of the Desert Island list was to have composers who were extremely prolific and who composed a wide variety of works. Elgar doesn't fit that category at all. And yet he was on people's list. Why? Because they like him. It's fine. You know, if he's one of your faves and you want to sit there on your desert island and listen to, the March of the Mughal Emperors for the rest of your life, I mean, okay, knock yourself out. But it really is amazing because Elgar was not terribly prolific, and he was extremely limited in the media in which he excelled. We're talking about sort of orchestral pieces, and he only wrote 2 symphonies, and he wrote, 2 concertos, and and a bunch of choral things. I mean, that's sort of Elgar. A couple overtures, a symphonic poem here or there, Falstaff. And so I was sort of surprised. And then I got what looked like an AI chatbot comment that said something like, "How dare you not include Elgar in your list when you included Mio and Villa-Lobos?" And it's like, well, they fit and he didn't. But anyway, so yes, I'm doing the 5 greatest Elgar conductors because, of course, there are conductors who specialized in that style of music and perhaps that composer as well. But there is no school of Elgar. I mean, let's be clear. And he's ceaselessly flogged as the British composer. And he's very important historically. He was the one who really was the first British composer in a long time to withstand comparison to the major European composers of his day and put sort of British music back on the map with works like the Enigma Variations and the First Symphony and whatnot. So, I understand that, but it seems to me that there were a bunch of British composers subsequently who were far more interesting. I mean, Vaughan Williams first among them, and who wrote a lot more music that, was a lot more varied and, a lot more interesting, but that's me. I guess that's just me. And there are conductors who have specialized in doing some Elgar, and here they are. Number 1, Georg Solti. Yeah, people don't give him much credit for his Elgar. It was really good. He did the symphonies, he did the violin concerto with, Kyung Hwa Chung. Yeah, I'm not thinking. Kyung Hwa Chung. There we go. That was her name. And I really think his Elgar was muscular and exciting and very close to the composer's own, actually, conceptually. He just, for some reason, tends to be overlooked. So, yeah, I think you should listen again. He knew what he was doing. Adrian Boult. Of course it has to be Adrian Boult because he was friends with the composer and he recorded everything 50 times and he knew the music. He knew the music extraordinarily well and he projected it with great authority. So, yeah, I mean, Adrian Boult definitely goes on the list, and if you leave him off, there's probably something not functioning there. And then we have Barbirolli. Oh, Barbirolli. He was so beloved. Everything he did was just lovable. Was it always good? No, not always. But his First Symphony is the reference version of that, and it's really marvelous. His second, unfortunately, he recorded it a couple of times, but he did it in Halle, and they just couldn't play it. Really unfortunate there. And he did The Dream of Gerontius, which I told now was Gerontius, after I've spent a whole life saying Gerontius and heard everyone else who I've ever known also say that. So it's still Gerontius, like Geritol. That's what it is. But Barbirolli was an Elgarian born and bred, and he made that glorious recording of the introduction in Allegro and string stuff. So yeah, for sure. Charles Mackerras. Charles Mackerras, of course, could do anything, and he could do anything superbly. But he made a glorious recording of the two symphonies, plus other Elgar thingies, orchestral works. He did a bunch of them, and he did them all extremely well. And, he went back to Elgar's own recordings and, listened for all the portamenti, and he put them back into his recording and all that. He was interested in the true performance practice, which had lots of vibrato, by the way. So that was absolutely lovely. And last but not least, Leonard Slatkin. Slatkin's Elgar is also terribly underrated. I don't know why. He's one of those guys who sort of breezed into the English musical scene. He had to do it with, I think it was the Philharmonia or the London Phil. You can't record Elgar without an English orchestra, or else the English critics will trash you. One of the reasons that Elgar, I think, can be so annoying to normal people is that he's so constantly flogged by English critics and the English press. And, you have to make your obeisance to Elgar. You have to go to England. And, unless you're an English conductor, in which case you can do anything you want. But if you're not, you go to England and you find an English orchestra and you do your Elgar in England with the English orchestra, because that assures you a certain amount of authenticity. Now, of course, Leonard Bernstein rolled in there with the BBC Philharmonic and offended everybody. It was marvelous that he managed to get them all annoyed. So that was kind of cute. And Daniel Barenboim is always an exception because, he did that initially, but now, having done that, he did some Elgar with his own orchestra in Germany. It wasn't that great, actually. Yeah, Slatkin sort of showed up, did his Elgar thing, and left. And his Elgar thing is just great. It's young, it's fresh, it's intelligent, it's exciting as hell. The climax of the scherzo of the Second Symphony is incredibly eruptive. And he didn't do just the usual stuff. He did The Kingdom, for example. And some other things like that. So, yeah, I think Slatkin's Elgar, he did the concertos. He is a really fine conductor generally, and I think he had a real feeling for that music. I really, really, really do. So those are my 5 greatest Elgar conductors. You want to toss a couple in? Hey, it's your channel. Do whatever you like. I'm just here for the ride. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.